Hello, Jacket fans, and welcome to this week's edition of Tuesdays with Tonya. I'm Nolan Alexander, joined by Tonya Johnson, head coach of the Tech volleyball team. Jackets traveled up to Rocky Top this past weekend, picked up 2 victories over the Tennessee Volunteers, Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Coach, overall, how was the weekend for you?
I thought the weekend was okay. I thought we did some really good things from the standpoint of, from a defensive perspective. I think we were right at 14 to 15 digs per set, which is pretty good for us. I think from a blocking perspective, I thought we did some fairly decent things blocking. I thought overall our passing was pretty good, especially in the Tennessee match and the Jacksonville match. And so there were a lot of good things that we could take away from this weekend.
Speaking of the blocking, last week it was UConn with a lot of blocks, and this week came out against Tennessee. A good trend picking up for the Jackets.
Yeah, I think it's it's our first line of defense, and we train our kids from the standpoint of we want to slow that ball down, and so we'll take a stuff block or we'll take a touch off the block to be able to set up and run our offense again. So I think our middles are getting better at closing the block. And I think our pins are handling the one-on-ones well, especially on the slides.
In that open match against Tennessee, one-year seniors Kayleigh Coulson came out and played really well for the Jackets. And what facets of the game did she look good to you?
I thought she did she ran the offense fairly well, but I thought she also had a good defensive match as well. And so that's one of the things that she's certainly improved upon this year has been her defense. And of course, her serving has been a factor for us all season. So she's a fairly good server. I think she's in the top 8, top 9 of the conference in aces per set. And so she's done a really nice job with that.
2 players that really stood out, Jennifer Percy and Quinn Evans. And Quinn, by the way, is turning a really consistent player for you, Coach.
Quinn has done a great job over the course of the last couple weekends of just being consistent and coming up at big swings when we need them, coming up with big blocks when we need them. And then I thought Jennifer Percy had a really good weekend. I thought versus Tennessee, and then being able to bounce back from that morning match and come out and play the way she did against Jacksonville, I thought she bounced back from that fairly well.
A topic we talked about last week, consistency and discipline, something you're looking for this weekend. How do the Jackets fare in those areas?
We still have some work to do. Those are the 2 words that I will use all year long with this team, just because we're so young in a lot of facets of our game, and so it's going to be important for us to build upon that and continue to improve in those areas as the season progresses.
So out of conference play, over for the Jackets. We move into ACC play now. Tech back on the road this weekend, taking on Maryland and Pittsburgh. What are the challenges of going on the road in back-to-back weekends?
From the standpoint of just from a, we bust this past weekend in Knoxville, and that wasn't too bad of a trip, 3 to 3.5 hours, and so it was nice to be able to come home Saturday night and for the kids to sleep in their own bed on Saturday night. Thursday we fly to Baltimore for Maryland, and it's a long road trip, and we don't get back until Sunday night, but a long road trip with some great competition in the mix.
What can we look for out of these teams this weekend?
Well, I think Maryland comes back with a fairly experienced team, and I think it's always a battle at their place. They play really well on their home court, just like we do, and so it's going to be a great match from the standpoint of they have some really good middles and pins, and so it's going to be a good match. And challenging for us in a lot of ways from the standpoint of our defense is going to be key, our blocking is going to be key, but I think more importantly we have to get into offensive rhythm really early in that match, and I think that's going to be really important for us. Pittsburgh, never been there before, be a first time for all of us, and so looking forward to that, and looking forward to playing one of the new teams on the block in our conference.
Pittsburgh, a new team, Syracuse and Notre Dame also grace the Tech schedule. Next year we'll see the Louisville Cardinals. What's your take on conference expansion in the ACC?
From our standpoint as a volleyball conference, I think it has certainly helped our conference in bringing in Notre Dame and Pitt and Syracuse and then Louisville next year. So I think it makes us a much better conference from top to bottom, because all 4 teams are fairly competitive. Louisville in the top 25, Notre Dame is traditionally in the top 25. Pittsburgh has been a fairly good program in the Big East and playing well in that conference. And Syracuse, I think, will be a program on the rise as well. And so when you talk about conference expansion, I thought we added 4 great volleyball programs to our conference, which certainly makes our conference more formidable.
In the Pittsburgh game, Jacket fans will have a chance to catch it online at ESPN3, and a lot more ESPN3 televised games in 2013 for Georgia Tech and throughout the ACC. How do you see that help growing the sport?
I think it helps grow our sport tremendously from the standpoint that people can watch from the comforts of their home. But more importantly, I think from a recruiting standpoint, I think it helps our conference as well, as you want all your recruits to tune in to those matches and see you play. And so I think that's important from that standpoint. So I think it's a win-win for our fans and a win-win for our recruits because they get to see us in a fashion that they typically don't get to.
All right, Coach, look forward to watching, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Jackets take on the Maryland Terrapins and the Pittsburgh Panthers. That Pittsburgh game on ESPN3, and you can stay up to date for all the information on Georgia Tech volleyball on RamblinRec.com.